Echoplex Media, boo.
I'm white, and I've got everything I need. No one clutches their purses when they're in a room alone with me. And I can drive through any neighborhood I please at any hour, and the police don't do a thing. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got everything I need. I'm a guy getting paid more than a girl with a degree. And I can walk down the streets after dark, no one wants to rape me. And I can get a girl pregnant and just as easily flee. Just like my straight white male dad did to me. So if I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. I've got a pile of broken mirrors and I'm walking under ladders and I'm spilling tons of salt, but to me that doesn't matter, cause my skin and my gender and my orientation are the best things to have if you live in this nation. I recommend it highly. If I see a penny on the ground, I leave it alone and fucking flip it. I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need. Shit's gonna work out for me, cause I'm a straight white male in America. I've got all the luck I need.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We do the show live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. If you're checking out the podcast, follow the Twitch channel. Come watch live some night. Doesn't necessarily have to be Wednesday. We have a lot of stuff going on here. Only night we don't stream here is Monday. So come check it out. You can support this project at echoplexmedia.com. Just click the support link at the top of the website and find your favorite way to support. I suggest buying a tinfoil hat. I'm producer Dave, and while it is still legal, you can find me on Grindr. So we fired this guy last year, this Andrew Bustamante guy, this guy that claims to have been a spy, sort of like burn notice sort of kind of thing. And well, he wasn't burned. He just claims that he and his wife got out or something. But he's been unfired. So he was on this Tom Bilyeu show. We've watched Tom Bilyeu a bunch of times on this. Tom Bilyeu's set looks like a 14-year-old boy would just love to set up his video game computer in there. And that's really all I have to say about Tom Bilyeu. Oh, he's also a con artist. And he's like a con artist. That's how he got rich, in my opinion. Anyway, here we go. The real threat is already here with Andrew Bustamante.
Tomorrow, the president is going to get a briefing from the CIA on his desk. What should be in that briefing?
That's a great question. It's going to be a different briefing than it was yesterday, which is, it goes without saying. But at the same time, what we're finding in the intelligence community, both publicly and non-publicly, is that assessments have not been accurate. For about 2.5 years now, intelligence assessments have not been accurate. If you recall, America misassessed what was going to happen in Afghanistan with the withdrawal. America did not correctly assess how fast Russia and Ukraine was going to resolve. America did not anticipate what was going to happen between Israel and Hamas, let alone Israel's incursions then into Lebanon and now into the Golan Heights. And for
wait, but you're a former intelligence operative. How do you know this?
Syria over the last 2 to 3 weeks. So the big question is, why are the assessments wrong and how do you fix that moving forward? Now, one thing that's not being talked about in the press that should be talked about in the press is that ever since 9/11, we've known as a federal government that one of the most vulnerable points for American national security is the transition period between the end of one election and the emergence of a new president, the first 100 days of a new president. So 9/11 happened during that window. What we're seeing right now is that...
Wait, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. Motherfucker, what kind of spy can't read a calendar?
Presented itself again. And inside of that window, what have you seen? You've seen the Oreshnik come out of Russia. You've seen Ukraine start firing American weapons. You've seen Biden approve more money than he believes Trump will approve. You've seen Syria completely change handoff and take over. You've seen Israel make incredible progress in the Golan Heights. We're seeing people exploit
Progress, you
now
say.
known as a vulnerable period for America. What else are we yet to see? Because January 6th is when the new president is ratified, but there's still generally another 100 days after that before they start taking active charge.
Generally, no, there's fucking like 2 weeks, friend, 2 weeks.
The current CIA
Not generally. There's an amount of time. It's a known amount of time.
has got to be speaking about assessments that he doesn't trust. And the incoming CIA director, Ratcliffe, most likely, has to be preparing for the fact that he doesn't know if he can trust the assessments he's getting.
That's interesting. So in that situation, what can Ratcliffe do to figure out, not even figure out, what can Ratcliffe do to be able to trust the agents in the field?
It's not a problem with the agents in the field. And this is a great thing that we're seeing with Kash Patel, the nominee for the FBI director. One of the things non-publicly, again, that's happening, but people don't see it happening, is that Donald Trump is bringing in people that are publicly known, but not necessarily qualified for the positions that he's nominating them for. And that's got the world.
Oh, shit. Fucking good. The fucking fake spy guy was like, these people are unqualified.
And the media is talking about that. What the media is not talking about is the incredible amount of effort that's happening on the back end, where Trump is trying to build advisory panels that are very knowledgeable about the topics. So he essentially
How
wants
do you know this?
to come in and support him in their positions. But
Is this guy going to end up? He's like, hey, man, I totally used to be a spy. You should hire me, Donald Trump.
filling them with advisors that know what the hell they're talking about. This isn't a new model. This is something that's been happening ever since the second George Bush that we know of, where they bring in cronies, but then they support the cronies with advisors. It's just happening in a different way with Donald Trump. So Kash Patel has come in and he's made it very clear. He doesn't trust the senior echelons of FBI. And his efforts to try to rout out troubled factors at FBI is really going to be looking at
Trouble. He means people who are not loyal to Donald Trump. That's not trouble. I mean, we don't love the FBI around here, but what he means is people who are not undyingly loyal to Donald Trump.
of FBI, not looking at the rank and file. Ratcliffe's doing the same thing. He knows that the working level field operator, field analyst, field tech ops person hasn't been politicized yet. They're still ideologically predisposed to serving American interests. It's not until 3, 4, 5 tours in 12, 15 years of service that you start thinking, well, how do I maximize my retirement? How do I get to the top of the food chain before I punch out? How do I make, because that's when you start having kids that are in high school age getting onto college. That's when you start having your first or second divorce that you're trying to fund. It becomes difficult.
The first or second divorce you're trying to fund.
That's
a realistic way to look at it. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard when you are a field operator. You do 3 phenomenal tours. You don't have any problem making $80,000 a year to live in Washington, D.C. or capitals around the world. And then you come back to a spouse that's disappointed because for the last 10 years, you've picked a different spouse over that person. You've picked a career over your partner. And
Wait, what? Does he assume that all these people are married? Now, I'm not an intelligence expert, but you would think that they would tend to pick people who are not married for doing like covert operations.
a divorce, and then you lose half your net worth.
Wait,
And
what?
then you're 40 years old, making $90,000 a year, but everything's cut in half, and your spouse takes it, and everybody you love and everyone you believe
Wait, what?
is gone, and you're left with a
This is some fucking MRA shit here. What's going on?
career. So you rebuild again, and you double down in that career. Those are the people that become the problem, because those are the people who rise up in power through a process that we call riding coattails. Some people call it having a rabbi. Some people call it having a godfather. You're not the most qualified.
Do you mean getting a promotion? So a more rational version of this, the thing that he just said sounds crazy, right? But a more rational version of this is if you were covert or semi-covert operator, maybe with diplomatic cover or whatever, operating overseas, you get old, you get tired, right? You're 40, 42 years old. You're like, I'm too old for this shit, right? Because it's hard. It's hard. It's stressful. You end up in situations maybe where you need to be more physically fit than the average 42, 43-year-old, whatever. And you're like, you go back home and you work at a desk and you climb the hierarchy within the administrative part of the intelligence apparatus.
You're just loyal to the person above you, who's loyal to the person above them, who's loyal to the person above them.
I'm not there.
All
That's
of a
no
sudden, the people in the
loyal.
last 10 years of service
Fucking, they're your boss. What are you talking about? I don't know if it's loyalty so much as desire to not get fired.
are much less loyal to the American people than the people in the first 10 years of their career. Ratcliffe, I think, knows that. Kash Patel knows that. So as they come in from the outside, they can kick the hornet's nest with very little cause for repercussion.
So what becomes the play? How do they do this well? How do we solve the deep state problem?
So first,
Oh no, the deep state. Does he just mean people who've worked there for a while? He means like middle and upper middle management. That's what they mean when they say the deep state, right? It isn't some fucking cabal. It's like career people. These are people, this is their job. This is what they've done. This has been their career. They've made a career out of it. Do we love the CIA or whatever unnamed or misunderstood intelligence organization? No. But this is just somebody who's like a fucking a manager or a fucking like a district manager, you know, whatever that would be inside of these these. What are they talking about?
I don't like to call it the deep state problem. I think it's more of a inefficiency, government incompetence problem, because it's not about meritorious service. It's not about having skills in your job that take you up to the top. It's about who you're loyal to that takes you up to the top. That becomes the exact same problem.
But in the
that we
corporate
see.
world, it works that way too. Or it's like just like anywhere else. It's like it's like a combination of things. If you're real good at your job, yeah, sure, you might get a promotion. But if you're real good at your job and you're real good at making friends with your boss and your boss's boss and even your boss's boss's boss, well, then yeah, you're probably more likely to get a promotion than if you were just really good at your job. This is because the people involved are human beings with biases.
Criticizing in Russia, in Israel, in Iran, where leadership doesn't want to brief up the truth. They don't want to tell their senior leaders bad news because they're afraid. They're afraid that if I brief up bad news, I'll be held accountable, or if I brief up bad news, I'll be punished or whatever else. I won't be in the rabbi's good graces anymore, so I'll get kicked out.
Wait, what?
Well,
if
what do you think led to
if things like we're talking, he's supposedly talking about fucking tradecraft and fucking shit that spy shit goes wrong all the time. Like it's a fucking, there's so many fucking unknown things. What do you mean you're not going to report the bad news? What happened to fucking, you know, such and such Operation Tinfoil Hat? And you're like, oh, what do you mean? What Operation Tinfoil? I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, everything's going great, actually. Oh, well, what's happening? You know, classified. Sir, I'm your boss. I have a higher security clearance than you do. No, you have to deliver bad news. What the fuck? They're going to find out anyway. And if you're keeping shit from your boss, they're going to fire you. It doesn't matter if you work at the CIA or fucking like IBM.
to all the bad assessments in the intelligence arena for the United States over the last 2 years.
So you're saying the people on the front line, they get what's going on, they report what's going on, but then people are afraid of the messenger being killed, and so they lie.
Sort of. I'm going to get too much in the weeds so that you can pull me out to where it's
Please.
helpful.
Yeah.
A field operator will write, on average, between 2 and 4 reports a day, right? So a field core collector, they're called for CIA, will write between 2 and 4 reports a day.
Maybe an analyst might do this. I don't know what he's talking. A field operator. So the problem here is, what does he mean in the field? What are you doing? How deep undercover are you? Is writing these reports going to compromise your cover? Like, what the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, an analyst might report what you're finding. You might be reporting what you're finding constantly, because that's like most of this stuff, by the way. You know, the people have been fucking I don't like brainwash, but people have been like people have Hollywoodized the idea of spycraft and tradecraft, right? I think it's like James Bond, but really no, it's like boring. Even in the field, as they say, it's a lot of stakeouts, and most of what's being done is like signals intelligence, and it's like analysts who are just sitting at a desk reading shit that comes across their desk, so to speak. I mean, it's on a computer, right? And so, yeah, those people are generating reports all the time. But in the, for the much more rare instance where somebody's like trying to infiltrate some group or trying to gain access to a certain individual or trying to trick other people into getting access to a certain individual to get information out of them, probably not writing a lot of shit down, friend. Because a spy, like when in the Hollywood version of a spy, it's just a criminal that works for a government.
Those 2 and 4 reports that are written to be delivered to Langley, Virginia, headquarters for CIA. But they won't get to Langley for between 48 and 21 or 2 days and 3 days, because for the next 2 to 3 days, they'll sit in the queue in their field office and be edited by middle management. Edited to say what middle management
edited by middle.
Sure Langley hears, but is different than what actually
edited. Well, maybe I think as you get higher up the food chain, I think it's more that things are being combined to get a bigger picture, to get a bigger picture of what's going on. Yeah, somebody said edited or summarized or possibly integrated with other information that is available from other sources.
Right. Is it as innocent as spin, or is it really, I got to find a way to say this that's not going to raise the blood pressure of my godfather?
It's 3 things, really. There's spin to make sure that they can secure more funds for operations in the future. So if I'm having a mediocre operation, it might get spun to sound more optimistic so that we can secure funding next quarter for the continuation of this operation.
But what do you mean mediocre operation? Sometimes shit doesn't happen, dude. I mean, what are you talking about? It's a lot of waiting. Like, it doesn't even have to be like CIA or whatever. If you talk to like undercover cops, like undercover cop, you know what they do? They spend a lot of time listening and waiting. Again, we're talking about like the fucking James Bond version of this too, right? The James Bond version of this is you're like flying around, sipping a martini and fucking everybody. But really, if you're like doing spying on people, you're listening, you're sitting in a car, you're fucking sitting in a hotel lobby seeing who passes by. Like, it's probably fucking boring.
Then there's also, we don't want to raise eyebrows. We don't want to raise blood pressure. So we'll dampen down a little bit of the more concerning parts and we'll amp up a little bit of the more comforting parts. So now,
wait, what?
Tamper down the fact that the case.
No, that's like the opposite of the job. If you're gathering intelligence and things are alarming, it's pretty important that shit gets like sent up the food chain. Like, what is he talking about?
Or the case officer, didn't fulfill a report about something else, whatever. We'll damp down the bad news, pump up the good news so that it just kind of skates through Langley. And then the third piece is that what we want to do is we also want to make sure that we don't give anybody the impression that we're doing something wrong. Because the last thing that senior management wants in the field is somebody at Langley to come back and say, what are you thinking, letting this person do this or do that? So receipts, expenses, how many operations they're doing in a week, how many operations they're doing in a day, all of that will get kind of massaged.
Operations per day. Yeah, he's talking about signals intelligence. He's talking about like analysts, right? Not people, as they would say in the field. Yeah, you might be working on several different things in any given day if you're an analyst. But he's supposed to have been this guy that was out there undercover, right? So you might be on a mission for fucking 3 months before you learn anything. Because your job is first to just not be noticed, to blend in, to look like you fucking belong there. Almost so that people don't even see you. That takes a while. What is he talking about?
To get to Langley. And then when it gets to Langley, it hits what's known as an operating desk. Operations desks are managed by the lowest level, youngest officers. And then those operating officers at the desk will be the ones that read 15 reports, but then only highlight the most important 3 or 4 for their supervisor, who highlights the most important 1 or 2 for his supervisor or her supervisor, who highlights the most important 1 or 2 that goes to the.
I don't think that's no. I think these things are being like integrated. I think these are being. Yeah, they're being integrated into a bigger picture. I think that the higher you get up the food chain, I don't know this, but it stands to reason that these things would, even if like a particular report wasn't that interesting, something from it might have been, and it might have been interesting, especially in the context of some report that we got last week. Oh no, what is he talking about?
It makes the president's daily brief.
That is an absolutely brilliant breakdown of the problem because it's so mundane, it's so human. This is exactly what I know people to be like. Do you view this as an intractable problem that we will never be able to solve?
This is where I have my reservations. I'm optimistic but reserved in my optimism for what Donald Trump is trying to do with the new organization that he created, DOGE. Is that what the new organization is?
Yeah.
That
Department of Governmental Efficiency. Yes.
Because the government is inherently inefficient. That's what it was built to be.
Okay.
It wasn't accidentally made to be inefficient. It was built to be inefficient so that it could withstand the constant transition of change
I
in
think we have
government.
to define, and maybe I'm debating you, but there's 2 kinds of inefficiency. There's gridlock, which I think the government was literally designed to do. And if people understand the difference between Congress and Senate, they will understand the Senate is meant to cool down the emotions of the Congress, which has everything to do with how they're elected. Originally, the Senate wasn't even elected. So you have Congress very sensitive to their constituents.
He means the House of Representatives, because the Senate and the House of Representatives combined are the congressional. They're the 2 houses of Congress.
Much meant to cool it down. Right versus left meant to gridlock so that only the things that both sides agree on get through.
Right.
But then there's the inefficiencies that you just described, which is what I will call it's humans acting in their individual best interest. So I understand that, but it equates to lunacy. So it's all short-term thinking, never long-term thinking.
I agree with what you're saying. And I would still say that the government was designed to be
Both kinds of inefficient?
operationally inefficient. Correct.
Was it designed to have the short-term thinking versus long-term thinking?
No. It was designed to be slow to make progress. So even though you've got the built-in gridlock, to use your term,
Yep.
you've got the gridlock element to make sure that bipartisan or the best ideas make it to the top, survive the gridlock. There's that idea. But then those things have to be implemented. That's where the operational inefficiency comes in. So you also have to consider the fact that the government has to survive. We've talked about this, you and I, before. The government of the American people has to survive even more so than the American people themselves, right? If we were to have something happen that wiped out 2/3 of the American population, if the US government existed, then the idea of America exists. Therefore, we survive. It's no longer an existential threat to have something that kills 2/3 of the population.
Excuse you. What if the people who run the government are in that 2/3? Like, who are the 2/3 of people who die? This is kind of important, right? What if of the 2/3 of people who die, whatever it is, the fucking nuke, it fucking hits like Washington, D.C.
That's how the government was built. So the reason you have so many government jobs, the reason you have so many government offices, the reason you have so many government middle managers is essentially to build in an inefficiency that makes it so that progress happens slowly. So that a president can come in and have a great idea that everybody agrees to the last year of their term. The world changes 2 months later, 6 months later, a new president takes over, and then they come up with a new great idea. Over all that volatility of 2 years, the actual operation of bringing the first good idea to light never really takes off. That's how the government is built. It's built so that you can't be a hotshot second-year officer that immediately becomes the director of CIA. You have to serve the 15 years before you get a chance on the 7th floor. That's how it's built. Completely the opposite of the way that the corporate world is built.
No, wait, has this guy never worked in a corporate? What? This is incorrect. There's a line from the X-Files, right? I don't know if anybody remembers this, where they were talking to the smoking man when he was young, and he's like, some men operate within elephantine bureaucracies. Well, those take forever to do shit too, whether they're corporate or government.
Like, it's completely the opposite of the way that the American dream is built.
How is it different than the corporate world?
In the corporate world, if you're badass sales, badass marketing, badass product, you can shoot right to the top. If you've got proven value over everyone else, you can go right to the head of the line. And then you can hold the head of the line until you either melt down or a competitor creeps up that's superior to you. You see it especially in the arts. How many...
Wait, in the arts?
Musicians, artists come in, they're unknown, they create a work of brilliance, of genius. The population gets behind them, money gets behind them,
So
investors.
that's different than corporate. That's called becoming popular. That's not how a corporate. What the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck is going on here? Okay, so if you're, I'm a DJ. If I was maybe a better or more popular DJ, yeah, I'd rise to the top or whatever. But that's nothing like a corporation, right? If you're an artist, you're oftentimes, especially now, working for yourself. If you're a band or whatever, it's very unlikely that you're going to get picked up by a record label. And if you get popular, you probably don't even want to get picked up by a record label because you want to control it. Maybe you hire some people to manage the business side of it, but that's not how a corporation works.
Shoot to the top of their game, they burn out on drugs, they burn out on something else, they fall, they crash to the bottom, maybe they reinvent themselves, they scream back up to the top.
No, that's just how it is. What are you talking? That's just how it is. If you make that, if you're in a band or you're a DJ or a producer or a painter or an author or a singer or whatever it is, and you have this just amazing like year or two of your career where you're just doing great, you're raking in all the dough. Well, eventually, whatever you were doing there, it comes to an end. Like, it just kind of has a life cycle generally. And so then you got to go back to work. You got to make a new album. You got to write another book. You got to, I don't know, if you're a DJ and you fall off, then I don't know, that's fucking like whatever. But you got to go back to work. You got to go back to the part where you're creating something. And so during the part where you're creating something, you're out of the limelight. You're at a studio or whatever it is, and you're working. And then when you finish what you're working on, or you get near the end of what you're working on, now you're ready to show it to the public again, and you may ride that wave again. You may become popular. Everybody may be listening to your new album, reading your new book, whatever it is. But that's just the life cycle of creating art.
This dozens of times. You see movies are made about artists who have had that exact kind of skyrocket and crash, right? The government can't afford that.
But it's because the movie has to portray it as a crash, right? But like, think about like a one-hit wonder. Think about, like, maybe not so much now, but think about a one-hit wonder like in the 90s. You know how much fucking money those people made off a one hit? Some of them just took the money and fucked off, right? But you don't make no movie about the smart ones who were like, well, we're going to keep making our music and shit, but look at all this money. You got a house, I got a house, we all got a house, everybody's family taken care of. Let's take a break. We'll write some music, we'll hang out, but mostly we're going to take the money and run. And I think more people do that than anybody knows, because you never hear of them again. But they don't all crash. They don't all end up burning out on drugs and shit. Some of them are still touring and you just never hear about it because they're not playing big venues, or you weren't really into the band in the first place, and they're still working musicians making a pretty good living. You just don't hear about it as much. Some of them fuck off to Vegas and do shows in Vegas. Some of them fucking go back to school and like they go get a degree and go do something else, and you never hear about them again. What is he talking about? He's talking about like the artists who are movie worthy, essentially, and a lot of that shit ends up getting like fictionalized or like exaggerated for the sake of the story.
Dangerous to government operations, so they tamp all that down. by forcing an inefficiency, by forcing a minimum number of years of service before you're eligible for promotion. Nobody can promote higher than one level above where they currently are. So you can't
Was that
ever.
defined by the founding fathers, though, or is this something that's arisen over time?
That's something that's arisen over time.
Yeah, see, I think we have to tease out the government was designed to do this. When I hear that, I hear founding fathers, and the government was.
The founding well, that's because you're a child. Literally, you're a child. The founding fathers didn't design. They basically didn't design any of what we call the government now. Founding fathers didn't know what are you talking about, FDA? Founding fathers would be astonished by California. They'd be like, "What?"
Watchmaker has ended up like this, and so call it evolutionary design, because I think that the gridlock intentional. Founding fathers wanted that. They knew human nature well enough. It sounds to me like what you don't like calling the deep state, which I like calling the deep state, only because if you accept this as this is just how humans are, they're going to go through that divorce. They're going to need to fund it, so they're suddenly going to be looking for their godfather who wants a loyalist.
But why do they got to get divorced? Like what they're saying is, oh, you were out in the field all this time, protected America, and then some bitch took all your money. Right? That's the story they're selling right here. I don't know. It seems a little sexist to me. It seems a little like what the fuck? What, your fucking wife wasn't working while you were out fucking saving the world, defusing bombs or whatever the shit you think that they were doing? You think the wife wasn't like what the fuck?
Is loyal to the person above them. Like I get how that all plays out, but if you
also,
don't,
like, what do you mean your wife? Friend, or a lot of women do field work. Because a lot of powerful people are men, and most people are straight and want to fuck women. You can get a lot of information out of somebody if you're fucking them.
Then I think you have a problem. Now,
Or if they
here's
think
the
you're
only
gonna fuck
difference
them,
that I see
even.
between the government and corporate America. Corporate America can't hide because you will go out of business. The government can steal the money of its constituents. Really, truly. The more I look at this, the more I realize that's exactly what's happening. And because the government can steal money and they don't have to get you to vote for everything, they can just keep doing this forever and ever and ever, operating at these huge losses from a deficit perspective. And there's all kinds of mechanisms by which they will sooner take us to war instead of confronting the fact that they just need to stop spending the money. Okay,
Wait, what?
so corporate America, cold hard reality of being out in the marketplace. If you don't have enough money to make payroll, you go out of business. This is why the banking industry deranges, because the government basically does the same thing with the banking industry. And so it's no longer true capitalism. Because the government...
When was it? What do you mean true? No, this is like, he's no true Scotsman in fucking capitalism and government.
Isn't true capitalism. This thing that I call the deep state to wake people up so they understand it is sinister in as much as, yes, it's just an echo of human foibles and weakness. I get that. I understand how each individual actor thinking short term makes the decisions that they make.
So is the answer like fucking some kind of like autocracy? Is the answer like a dictatorship?
We were able to point at and say, this is the KPI that this government, and this is really what Doge is about, this is a KPI that this department is held accountable to. And if you don't hit that, then we're going to start firing people. And it's that simple. And I think that once you understand, it was not designed that way with
But what about parts of the government that exist just at like Social Security, the Social Security Administration? They're not going to, you can't turn a profit. Your job is to write checks to old people.
meaning people anyway. It was designed by selfish, short-term people over evolutionary time frames within, governmental structures. I mean, obviously the last couple hundred years. But we should not want that, as far as I can tell, and we should want to bust that up. But it seems like you think there's a good thing here.
No. So
we want to smooth out the volatility.
Yeah. It's just to be clear, I don't think there's a big gap between you and I. In terms of our ambitions for what we want the future to look like. I would even go to say,
well, I think we all have a different idea of what we want the future to look like too. Like that's really interesting that like everything else is, well, I don't know, this is all real complicated. And then something like what we want the future to look like, it's just taken almost like as a given that we all basically want the future to look the same way. That's kind of weird.
the imperatives that you and I know the future must look like. I don't think there's a big gap between us. I think where there is a gap between us is in the battlefield truth. And the battle, as an example, right? The federal government does not use work instructions.
What does that mean?
A corporation uses work instructions, meaning you can hire a new person, bring them into an office, and you can literally give them access to a
SOPs.
folder, standard operating procedures.
Got
Standard operating procedures, in my in my experience in corporate America and in our business at Everyday Spy, we create SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. Here's the standard operation of how you bring a product to market. Here's a standard operating procedure of how you run a marketing campaign. And then inside that SOP, we have links to work instructions, which tell you step-by-step checklists, how you do each thing that must be done inside the SOP.
God, working for him must suck. You micromanaging the shit out of everybody.
Does not use work instructions. And by and large, the government does not use SOPs. Most of the government is written on the back of what's known as institutional knowledge. And
There's no standard operating procedure. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I think there's probably nowhere. I bet the government, I bet if you take a government job, boy, howdy, are there a lot of standard operating procedures, some of which probably don't make no sense to you, and maybe they don't even make sense at all. But boy, howdy, is there a fucking organized bureaucracy within government agencies.
on the job training, OJT. So a new person comes in, they go through training, they go through onboarding and orientation, and then they go to their office where they're taught through some senior person or
No, this is like mentoring. The government is not like the fucking like remember Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or whatever. Where it was like that was probably some weird white savior shit. Now that I look back on it, even just for a second, but no. Your boss doesn't be like, "Oh, I'm going to take you under my wing." Don't worry. There's no paperwork. Don't worry about that. No, there's nothing. No, you don't have to. No. There's no instruction. It's just like vibes based. Just stick with me, friend, and you'll be fine. No, that's how the fucking mob works. Kinda.
Mid-rank person, how to actually do the job. It's not documented. There's rarely a checklist. There's rarely a work instruction. There's rarely an SOP. The military does the best job of having actual checklists, and those checklists are you just follow them blindly, so they don't live like a work instruction. They don't get updated with new technology updates. They don't get updated with new...
Yes, the military famously never uses new technology. Like, God, get the fuck out of here. There's a new technology that fucking there's a new technology and there's any possible way we can use it to like exterminate poor people. The military going to figure that out pretty quick.
Systematic software updates. They exist until they're rewritten and then they exist again. That type of continuity is a very difficult thing for the government. They don't have a best practice around that because, to your exact point, short-term interests, people want to make sure they always have a job. If they make a work instruction and an SOP, that could lead to an automation that could cost them their job.
Wait, what?
And inside the federal government, all you have to do, there's a saying, you just wait out your leadership change. Because every year, somebody has to get promoted. Every 2 years, somebody new gets appointed. Every 4 years, somebody new gets elected. So if you're a government employee, you just can sit there and wait.
Yeah, but in a big corporation, if you say your boss's boss is an asshole and an ambitious motherfucker at that, you're like, oh God, let's say it's a guy. This guy's just fucking Bob is such a dick. But you think to yourself, well, I've been here for a while. I'm making pretty good money. My stocks, I have stock options and stuff. Things are, all in all, things are pretty good. So maybe an ambitious motherfucker will get himself promoted again. So then he'll fucking never have to have anything. He'll never even remember who I am. Yeah, people do that all the time. People ride it out at a job hoping that the leadership either directly above them or maybe one step above their direct boss, that changes, and so that things get better, so they enjoy their job, or so they feel like they can do a better job. People do this in large. It doesn't matter if it's a government or a private sector, even like large nonprofits. Yeah, people ride it out while they think the leadership sucks because there are other things about their job they like, primarily that they're not looking for a job right now.
Because the change happens faster than your own reported progress in your job. So the reason that you have this backlog of inefficiency isn't because the founding fathers wanted it. I don't know that the founding fathers could visualize the technology and the progress that we've made this quickly.
Yeah, no shit. I said that earlier. They would be astonished by California.
What's happened?
They'd be like, how many people? Where?
It is human beings have taken office. They've done what they needed to do to survive. The government evolves slower than the corporate sector. Technology is different.
Depends on
software.
No, because there's not all these little fucking startup governments happening like within there's all these little startup companies and like the corporate sector. It's just different. It's different than the government. The government, I mean, there's states, but the government's kind of like one thing. You can't just start a startup government within the United States to, God, this guy, what the fuck is he talking about?
Government still uses Windows technology that's 20 years old because it hasn't been certified yet as safe for government systems. You see what I'm saying? It's terrible, man, but it's the reality of it. I'm excited.
The government should be using Linux. The government should be using open source software whenever possible for a variety of reasons.
For Doge. I'm excited for an Office of Government Efficiency, but I have seen what's happened with the Office of Government Accountability, and I've seen what challenges it's had because the people who make the laws that dictate the hiring practices for government, the people that make the laws that dictate the promotion and...
Doge, does it stand for Office of Government Efficiency? I know it's the Department of Government Efficiency, but wouldn't it be better if it stood for Office Government Efficiency?
Remuneration requirements for the government, those laws all have to be changed in order for something like Doge to actually make significant changes.
Laws have to be changed?
So how you're hired, how you're fired.
There are laws around how you're hired and fired.
That's a fair point.
Corporations have policies about hiring and firing too. That's HR, the human resource, and any reasonably sized corporation, HR that is there, and they have policies about hiring and firing that are mostly designed by lawyers so that you don't get your ass sued.
I don't know that there's legislative laws at a federal level. I would want to double check that. But the government policies, in order for something to be a policy in a federal government, it goes through multiple layers of bureaucracy to be approved as a policy. Not like a corporate policy where somebody just pencils something in and then that's corporate policy.
Jesus.
Wait, how big is the company? Again, no. New corporate policy goes through different layers of bureaucracy before it is implemented. What?
We'll get back to the episode with Andrew Bustamante and the change made of being pay with gold back. Want to be a part of this monetary revolution? Go alpinegold.com and use code IMPACT to get gold backs today. Again,
so this is where this is one of those things where you send them money for gold and then they don't send you any gold. I'm not kidding. It's just a different way of doing it. It's like they're disrupting the gold industry, but they're just like, oh, you're going to send us money. We're going to send you this fake currency. Don't worry. We'll hang on to the gold for you.
Again, that's alpinegold.com, code IMPACT. We need to talk about your online security. Every site you use. Consider shares act cyber hits. One, I want to acknowledge how brilliantly you're able to explain that. Two, I want to acknowledge that you're yanking a dark cloud over my heart. So for real. So as a business owner, the first thing that you learn is you cannot fuck around. You cannot drag employees that are underperforming because the reality is that the organism as a whole will die.
Yes.
And you were talking about we could, 2/3 of the population could be annihilated, but as long as we have the government, the idea of America still exists. But here's the problem. When you calcify the government in the way that you're talking about by allowing all of this short-term thinking, all of this just wait out your boss, that's insane. That's
actually long-term thinking, right? Isn't wait, hey, I know this seems bad, but like wait it out. I think that person will probably be reassigned. We'll get somebody better. That's at least medium-term thinking, right? Because short-term thinking would be like, fuck it, I quit.
Empires fall. I want everybody to understand. If you can hear my voice, please understand the following. Every empire in history has so abused the monetary system that they go away. Now, how do you end up?
Is that why?
abusing
Because
the
they've
monetary
abused the
system?
money. Well,
You get something
they didn't deal in fake gold.
like this, where people are not being held accountable to the results that they're supposed to deliver. And if you allow an organization to be created where people are just waiting out their bosses, now it really does become a figurehead comes in. They focus entirely on international endeavors because they can actually influence international policy, but they can't really do anything at home. And so you get this, what's happening to America right now, as far as I can tell, is we become effectively the hegemon in waiting at the end of World War I. Some would say we are the hegemon at that point. Certainly by the end of World War II, we are everything. And we've just been trading on that goodwill until now. And now it's breaking down because of, largely, not only, but largely because of this layer of concrete in the gears of what could otherwise be a high functioning government. Okay, so
I'm glad that we're part of the dark cloud club.
Yeah.
Because I also have a dark cloud over my heart pretty much all the
say
time.
more.
So I'm sorry to
Don't
burst.
apologize. I always want to know what's true. All I care about is what's true.
But here's what's important to understand. It doesn't have to be that way, to your point, because there is a tool that the president has called like the presidential authority to make executive orders. An executive order trumps all other previous.
You know what's crazy is I don't think the founding fathers. I don't think that's anywhere, right? I don't think that's in the founding documents of the country. I think that's some dictator shit, actually.
And since the days of Obama, we've seen nothing but an increase in the president's willingness to write more executive orders than ever before. So Donald Trump.
Some of that is because some of the executive orders they're writing, they're just undoing the executive orders that the fucking last person did. That's why it's all dumb. I think we should get rid of that shit. I think the administrative state should have some power, but it should be granted specifically by Congress. Like, I don't know what the fuck, like, I don't think that I don't know if I might be wrong here, but I don't think executive orders are like outlined anywhere in the Constitution.
As the precedent already to come in and make more executive orders than Biden made, which were more than the previous Trump made, which were more than the previous Obama made, right? So we have this precedent now for Donald Trump to come in and just sign executive orders. And with the flick of a pen, he can change all the policies. He can change all the status quo. He can absolutely upend everything. I think he will. When he does give the executive orders for a massive cleaning of the federal government, we have to also expect that it will be executed, meaning we will see a huge purge of federal employees.
Well, that's going to fuck everything up.
There's no work instructions and SOPs to back up new federal employees. So when we see that big purge, we should expect problems. We should expect upheaval and chaos, and people aren't going to know what they're doing.
On an international stage, or
on a
Like, shit's not going to get done.
domestic stage, at least in a government stage. So we should expect things to get worse before they get better. What happens when a company realizes it has problems? It can lay people off, it can fire people, it can change policies. It gets worse before it gets better. The major problem here is that a for-profit company, or the major difference here is that for-profit companies need a profit to survive, or else the company dies. Federal government does not need a profit. It's got a tax base. It's got guaranteed revenue. All it needs is employed people to pay taxes so that it can make revenue. That's why the government's always so focused on employment rates. If you have more unemployment, you have less tax revenue. If you have people who are employed in jobs that are low paying, you have less tax revenue. Unless we start increasing our tax rates, which is how Europe survives, with very high tax rates. So that's the game that the government's trying to play. Fewer employees will reduce the amount of overhead costs, but then if they don't have people who can do the job, they'll have to turn to contractors. Those contractors come at a premium price, and now you basically have the...
Yeah, that's the plan. You dumb fuck, that's the plan. That's the plan. You seem unaware of it, but that's the plan, is to privatize the federal government. That's the plan. That's the plan.
Entire administrative government operating the same way that the intelligence services operate, which is they don't have enough staff employees. They augment with contract employees. And that's how your Kakis, your Booz Allens, your Deloittes of the world became billion-dollar companies, because they just started producing government contractors.
It seems to me that we need the system to be broken because when you look at what we're doing,
The way this guy talks about stuff is like, it's really weird. I can't really put my finger on it, but he does it where he's like, well, it seems to me that we need the system to be, it's just very, very weird. Very, I don't know. Does he think this is what it sounds like to be thoughtful? I'm unsure. I'm unsure.
yes, the government has a guaranteed tax base. However, we're racking up $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. The only way out of that is to spend less. So slash the government employees, slash entitlements, whatever the case is going to be. But look at the 10 biggest things that we spend money on. You're going to be slashing those. It's not going to be at the margins. Or you have to raise GDP. And if we could get people, all of us, anybody, hey, if you're here listening right now, think of the GDP as the revenue generated by the government. It's not, because the government ultimately does not generate revenue, but they can either impede or unimpede the GDP of everybody else that's within its borders. So the whole thesis that Trump is operating under is that I'm going to be able to unlock growth. GDP is going to go up, so I don't have to tax people more and commit suicide like Europe is doing. Mm-hmm. Hi, Europe. I hope you're okay. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
But if
Europe, fine. Europe, fine. What is he talking about?
look at the number of companies that are worth more than $1 billion that were started in the last 50 years or something like that, the US has a ton and Europe has like 6. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And anybody that thinks corporations are evil, I will just remind you, the government doesn't make money. They take money from the people that make money, and it's the corporations that make money. So if you want your people to be thriving, you've got to have GDP.
No. This is like a ice cream cone licking itself, though. The money came from somewhere. Where the fuck does he think the fucking IBM just making money?
Government makes up all the GDP. Don't get me started. Printing money, debt, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so
there is a third tool.
Please say more.
To get out of debt.
You're either about to change my life or we're about to be in fisticuffs. What is it?
Fisticuffs might be the way it goes. You can just default. So think about what happens when you look at the national debt that the United States carries.
So you'd be defaulting mostly on yourself. If the U.S. were to default on its debt, it would be defaulting on bondholders. It would be defaulting the people that it owes the money to are mostly Americans. So it'd be fucking itself. It'd be like, congratulations, you fucked yourself.
12 to 15% of that debt is owed to one country, China. And then you have $500 million more that's owed to Russia. And then you have obfuscated numbers that go to the ultra wealthy that are Chinese, are Russian, are Iranian, are Turkish,
are American,
are Saudi. You could arguably simply not pay those debts, write it off the top line, right off the amount owed, and simultaneously
but the problem with that is I think the fucking countries he's talking about, I think they owe us money too, right? It's like I think this is all like an ice cream cone that's licking itself here. I don't think it works that way. I think we owe them money, they owe us money, everybody be owing everybody fucking money.
Economic blow to your largest adversaries. I'm not altogether unconvinced that is exactly the strategy that we plan. That when we decide to go to war with East versus West, when we decide to get involved, we're going to do to China what we did to Russia, and we proved that we're willing to do when we sanctioned the actual cash reserves of Russia that was being held in US denominated dollars and European euros. We just took their money. Extrajudicial, not at all allowed, something that we had NATO sign off on because we control NATO. It was totally illegal in every definition of the word. There's no reason we can't just do that with our national debt. And that's going to reduce us like 25% overnight and defund our enemies from being able to work against us. Will it destroy
So just
the
real
US?
quick from chat, and I believe people in chat, Japan is the largest foreign debt holder, and that sounds right, because there's some shrewd ass business people over there. Japan is a pretty shrewd fucking country. Post World War II Japan is actually amazing.
Dollar? Arguably, if you're doing it only to your adversaries, maybe not. Maybe that makes your allies even more allied because now you have a massive head start against your enemies. But that is a third way that companies get out of debt. Fisticuffs or
No, I was like, there's no thing he's going to be able to pull out. You are correct.
I wanted to see these two guys slap
Being able
fight.
to change the ratio of debt to GDP. That is the nuclear option, because that there's no guarantees in life. I want to be very clear. I cannot.
Yo, that makes our money fucking not worth anything, right? Like, oh, we defaulted on, oh shit. Well, now the rest of the debt isn't really worth anything either because his money isn't worth anything, and now we're a fucking banana republic. Like, no, that's a child. So, oh yeah, well, what if I just don't pay you? Oh yeah, well, what if I just don't pay you? That's what he's saying. That's a child. That's the way a child looks at this. Oh well, Billy, I don't really owe you $6 because I'm just not going to pay you.
That works out just fine. It's also possible that 10 years later, we are dropping bombs on each other at a scale never before seen in human history. People do not like it when you fuck with their money.
I agree.
And wowza.
So this is all kind of fucking stupid too, because I don't think the US dollar is not really backed by anything, but I'm going to go with aircraft carriers. That's what the US currency is backed by, aircraft carriers. The ability to deploy and use an amount of force that the world has never seen, and hopefully the world never sees. That is what is backing the US dollar. And anybody who tells you anything different is living in a fucking fantasy world.
Fully concede the point that is certainly a thing that we can do. Hey, if we want to get crazy, we could also devalue the dollar against gold. And that won't make the world happy either, but that would also have a very big impact on the debt. The reason that is so dark, and I can hear wolves howling in the background, is really twofold. One, because it's all too possible that that's on the menu of options. And two, because that is where Ray Dalio has been saying this is all going to go, that we end up in a hot
Who the fuck is Ray
war. The reason
Dalio?
we end up in a hot war is when we lock up China's money and they're in the middle of a
China
crisis.
be fine. The thing that if we lock up China's money, you know what China does? Well, we go, all right. And they just stop sending us shit. Like, what is he talking about?
because they are in the middle of a crisis right now. Nothing that the U.S. hasn't seen, and I'm sure they'll be able to inflate their way out of it and all that good stuff. But if the U.S. freezes some ungodly amount of my money and I'm China, I go, oh, really? You want to play? Cool. Taiwan's mine. And now
That's not the response. That's not. They don't know. They don't. I mean, other than like TSMC, that's not the no. That's not the response. The response isn't I'm invading Taiwan. That provokes a kinetic war with the United States. Is not in China's interest. These people, they all think that the Chinese are like stupid, right? They think that the Chinese are stupid and will behave impulsively if we behave impulsively. That's not what happens. That's not what China says. Oh, well, look at all this intellectual property you keep sending over here. So, oh well, man, you're not going to pay us. Well, fuck. Ah, here's an iPhone from China. It's a Chinese iPhone. Fuck you.
How badly you want these chips in your modern way of life, because you either give me my money back or I'm going in and I'm taking over and I'm cutting off your supply. They are not going to roll over. They are not just going to take it.
They're not invading Taiwan just to get TSMC. That's what he's talking about because he's stupid. fuck, they may just go over to Taiwan and be like, hey, actually, all this shit with the saber rattling, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. Why don't we make a deal? We're not going to invade you, and we're going to pay you 10% more for what you're producing for the next 5 years.
Truly, last time we talked, you said that World War III has already started. That's how World War III goes from what do you mean we're in World War III to downtown LA just got vaporized.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, the truth holds today as it's held for our multiple conversations. The future is not happy. We are years away from happy future. We are potentially months away from positive indicators that happiness is coming, but we're not anywhere close to happy yet. And we won't be close to happy for a long time. China won't roll over. Great point, right? Also, when it comes to actual measurable objective facts about China right now, they have the largest military industrial complex in the world when it comes to counts of troops, numbers of active warships, numbers of aircraft, ammunitions at the ready. They
What do you mean? What kind of numbers of active? Sure.
surpass us by
Ability to make more.
almost 7 times.
Yeah, they
Huge.
are us when Pearl Harbor happened.
So they're not going to roll over because they look at us and they see that we have our senior advisors to the military advising to stop giving weapons to Ukraine and Israel because we are at such a deficit. We don't even know how we would wage a sustained conflict if we were the active participant. So if China were to invade Taiwan militarily, which there's no indications that that is their intention necessarily, but that is one of their options. If they invade militarily,
No, dude, fuck this. If they want to, if we start to fuck around with China's money, why would they invade Taiwan? They just go make a fucking deal. They're right there. They're right next there. They're right next to you. You got plenty of money. Go make a deal. Well, why would they? That's stupid. Dumb. Like dumb provocation in a time where you could just go make a fucking deal.
the US is really only going to be able to augment Taiwanese defense capabilities. We won't be able to wage a war on our own, just based on our manufacturing capability and the amount of ammunition, weapons, troops, tanks, ships that we have.
Well, I mean, even so, it's also just it's like far from us. It's pretty close to China. But that's why would they do that? That seems like a dumb fucking thing. These people aren't dumb. They're just us, but in China.
Chinese shipbuilding is outproducing us. Chinese military training is outproducing us. China is outspending us. And what did we learn from Russia in Ukraine? The whole world sanctioned Russia. How did they keep their economy alive? Wartime economy. Why are, well, France and Germany are fucked right now on their own. But before they fucked them,
Germany is not. I mean, they don't have a big military, but Germany is the economic engine of the European Union. What is he talking about?
with meltdowns in their parliaments, they were the ones warning that if we don't find a way to bring a ceasefire in Ukraine, Russia is going to continue to build its economy on the back of a war. That's exactly how the United States has survived some of our worst times. We had a wartime economy. That's what made Afghanistan, Iraq worth it. That's what made World War II worth it. That's what made the Korean War worth it. That's what made Vietnam worth it, because economies go up. Domestic production goes up. Employment goes up, tax bases go up when there's a war.
But that's because it's all fucking constructed. That's because it's all fucking because you can control the currency.
China is preparing mentally and fiscally for some kind of conflict. It doesn't have to be with us. It can be with all of its neighbors in the South China Sea for all it cares. But right now, we literally can't wage war. What are we going to do in the future? They're not going to roll over. And to your exact point, they know we're not going to roll over. So you've got these two big fucking dogs staring at each other, growling, but not barking yet. And everybody else is walking around being like, oh, they're fine, because there's a mesh fence between them. I don't know what the future holds, but it's not going to be a hard barbed wire fence that makes these two dogs peaceful.
By the time this airs, it will have already happened. But what do you think about Trump inviting Xi Jinping to his inauguration?
I like the idea because, again, you have to acknowledge a big dog. I have a puppy now. We have a 4-month-old poodle, standard poodle puppy. It's got the same hair as me, right? Only white instead of black. But one thing that I've learned in the puppy training classes is that there's nothing more dangerous than a dog on a leash. Because when a dog's on a leash, instinctively, it feels like it's confined, trapped. So then when a dog on a leash meets another dog on a leash, they start pulling on the leash, coming at each other. If they didn't have the leashes, their instincts wouldn't force them into conflict. They'd be trying to smell each other's ass, right? A completely different movement. But instead, from the outside observer, you watch these two dogs growling, salivating, pulling.
I don't think this is true
as if
either.
They would kill each other. It's the leash that's the problem, not the dogs. So essentially what we have in the United States with China is you have these two big dogs that want to acknowledge each other. They want to sniff each other's ass. I think Trump knows that. Let them sniff. And then from there, they can start making moves that are not going to be misinterpreted. Remember how we avoided the Cuban Missile fiasco, right? The crisis avoided nuclear war because there was a bunch of ass sniffing going on, right? People were they had intel on us, we had intel on them, back and forth. We could avoid miscommunications to the point where they even had a phone that they could call each other to make sure.
Yeah, there were
was no
back channels.
miscommunication. The world is full of miscommunication right now. Things are unexpected. Things are happening that analysts didn't anticipate. Assessments are wrong about what is happening. Nobody can guess what the next step is. Who would have guessed that Assad would have fallen in 14 days, backed by Turkey, and that now those Turkish-backed groups would be fighting American-backed Kurds inside Syria? Who would have guessed that was going to happen 2.5 weeks ago? Like, there's only 4 people in the entire United States that watch fucking Syria, right? So
Wait, what?
I
That's
think
probably incorrect.
So Trump's plan to invite Xi to include him in.
I wonder if this guy got
the United
fired.
States is wise, but he also has to account for the fact that anything he shows or tells Xi is going to make its way to Putin and make its way to Kim Jong-un and make its way to all of the enemies of the United States, because that's how Xi maintains his leverage over the growing axis of resistance, because they're a big dog and they're invited to sniff the other dog's ass.
Okay, so if we've got Trump coming in and he's got a cadre of people that are, for the reasons that you laid out, they're not going to surface the truth. I'm going to pose a way around that. Tell me if you think this is crazy. So the way that you laid out the problem seems fundamentally true because it is in keeping with what I know about the human animal. Given the state of AI, what I would do is say, I want my analyst, I want the human touch, I want to see what's going on there, but I also want the people, the field agents, to be able to feed their briefs into an AI that
No. What the fuck?
going to summarize and hand it to me. I will verify.
No. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You ever seen it draw a cat with 3 faces?
The bias of the AI by asking it to take both sides of arguments that I know the answer to and see if it's really giving me something that's just bias on bias, or if it's able to take both sides.
But now you're assuming that you are unbiased or able to tell what. No.
So that now I can compare and contrast. This is what the AI says is going based on field data being reported to it. And then this is what the people are telling me. And I would compare and contrast. That plus whether I have to do it as an executive order, which I'm actually not a big fan of, but if I have to be able to do an executive order to be able to hire and fire people based on performance, then executive order I would highly recommend. Those 2 things. I can hold government employees accountable to results, and I have an AI to gut check what I'm getting from the field. Do you see?
I think that the last thing, the AI doesn't have any guts. Gut check is I think a gut check is like an inherently human thing. Maybe animals do a bit of a gut check too before they fight or whatever, but I don't know how animals are. But I know that a gut check seems very human. Seems like the human thing, not a thing, not the AI. The AI ain't gonna gut check shit. The AI ain't got no guts.
Another way to do that better?
I don't think I see a way to do that better, but there are some elements there that I want to make sure in keeping true to our dark cloud, right? Performance metrics, the day they're implemented would be the first day that you'd be able to actually measure performance for a government employee. They don't have metrics right now. It's kind of standard practice across the government.
Wait a minute. What do you mean they don't have performance metric? What the fuck is he talking about?
David Sachs, Trump, like they're going to be able to come up.
I hate David Sachs.
I agree. They can. I'm just saying that when they come up with them, that would be day one. So from now until the day those are rolled out and issued is all before day one, right? And then to your point about performance, the performance process for government employees, even military employees, the performance process is flawed. Everybody is overstated in their performance report. So basically, your bad employee is an employee who meets expectations formally on paper. And your standout employees are the ones that exceed expectations and have all sorts of accolades. And then the people who you're trying to flag for promotion are the people who exceed expectations, have all kinds of accolades, and have certain keywords inside their resume.
What?
That also highlight to the board that's reviewing them for promotion, this is somebody that their boss really wants them to promote. So it's already hyper
like nepotism.
You don't have anybody that you can easily cut, because if you actually look at everybody's performance review, they're all 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that's not how you cut though, man. So and it'll be interesting because I know you're growing like a weed at Everyday Spy. I'm going to look into your future and I'm going to tell you it's going to go like this. There are going to be people that in your heart of hearts, you realize you're caring because you like them as people, but they don't deliver results and that you're making excuses for them. And if they blindly submitted a project that you'd be like, oh, whoever project this is, kill it. And then only to find out that it's somebody that you really like. And so ultimately, as you scale, you will hit a point where you can't oversee everything. And suddenly you'll be pulled away from your wife and kids because you have to go deal with the fire. And as you're looking at it, you're like, I should never have been pulled into this. You will say, who's responsible for this? And a name.
Why everybody got to have a wife and kids?
And you'd be like, cool.
And what are your wife and kids just not doing anything but hanging out with you? What the fuck?
Not useful to this organization. You will
probably
very
glad you
rapidly
leave.
begin to recognize those patterns. I've lived it. I'm a few years in your future.
You're not even that. I mean, I've already started struggling with what you're saying.
Yeah,
you're totally
will
right.
Make itself apparent over time. Right now, Trump has around him the greatest living entrepreneurs. It is.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no. He has the people that have extracted the most capital from the system. That's different than being I don't know. I mean, this is America. This is America.
Insane what he's been able to bring around him. Now, I get it. There are complications to the government that's going to make this very difficult, and it is not going to be some like Pollyanna outcome. However, Elon walked into Twitter and was just like, Pareto principle, 80-20, I'm going to get rid of 80% of the people and hope that I got the 20% right. Obviously, you'll look at metrics, but it won't be the employee reviews.
Yeah.
It's going to be things like, it'll be
Loyalty. It's going to be loyalty.
different for every department. I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
But he went and was just
Loyalty.
like, how many lines of code did you submit? Okay, so first thing is there's
Wait, no, but send me your best code is stupid. What do you mean send me your best code? Because like a lot of like you end up like maintaining code.
Elon's mind, knowing from an engineering standpoint how many lines roughly of code you should be submitting. I'm just going to lop.
Well, no. What if you're getting rid of what the fuck? What if you get rid of lines of what if you get rid of lines of code and do the same get the same thing fucking done? What do you mean? What if you write less code and it's better?
Doesn't submit that amount of code. And will I have lost some like really high level guys that just don't do a lot? Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like they're just.
Or what about the people who they are doing a lot and they're cleaning up the shit that everybody's like, fuck, I got to write all these lines of code, and then their boss is like, oh damn it, now I got to find me and Susan. She's really good at cleaning up code too. Me and Susan, fuck, we're gonna have to clean up all this code now.
Have a line, then I can bring people back if I have to. And I remember openly on X, he was like, hey, Timmy or whatever, we fired you. We actually want to bring you back if you would reach out. So that's his thing. Seeing what Milei's doing in Argentina, same thing, weed whack, and then if you overdo it, you can bring some people back in. But he's managed.
Yeah, like QA is like it's so important. Like quality, like the people that assure the quality, like get rid of those people. They're not writing any code. No, those people are the best coders in your organization because they're able to look at the other code. They're able to look at the other code and improve upon it, make suggestions to the engineers about how to do this better. Like even like good engineers need guidance from like, what the fuck, dude?
Surplus, like it's
Absolutely.
actually working.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of high hopes for that. Again, not existing in a Pollyanna land. But if you were to make a prognostication about where all of this goes, do you think it is just, it's too gridlocked, they're never going to be able to make progress, these guys are just going to heads down, wait them out?
I think so. I still owe you a second answer.
So if you're good enough at your job, yeah, you just keep doing your job probably and just wait this out. But the other thing, I don't think that these people, that they're leaving something out here, something really important. There's a lot of really people who have really good like skill sets that are working in the government and they're working for the government for less money because of things like maybe the pension or because they know that it's like a more secure job. It's a less volatile industry. But you start pissing those people off, the private industry is just going to pick those people off. Private industry, they're just going to quit and go work for somebody else.
So I think that the existing government establishment is going to try first, heads down, wait out our leadership. Let's also be honest. Donald Trump has a history of loving people this year and hating them next year.
Loving them this morning and hating them this afternoon. Yes.
So
that's my big fear.
But that feeds into the existing government culture of we just wait out the boss.
This guy's going to self-destruct.
Just wait out the boss. And even
that fucking good job, fake spy guy. Yeah, that's what you do. You just go, it doesn't matter. Oh, David Sachs is in here fucking shit up. Don't worry. David Sachs is going to suggest to Trump that Ivanka's just a 9 and he's out.
They can wait out Elon Musk. They can wait out whoever Musk hired. They can wait out whoever's implementing the policy of the person that Elon hired. Like they can wait and wait and wait and wait. And that's all they know, right? Even your high performing government person, even the person who's listening now who knows that they work their ass off in the federal government and they've never been rewarded for it because that's the way it works. Even that person knows on some level, I could just color and wait. Like I can just do that.
It's so dark.
It's their
true.
survival mechanism.
But there's been like comedies about businesses where people do this.
So that will be the first instinct. I think that instinct can be buffered out, right? To your exact point. Do I see a future with AI? Absolutely, I see a future with AI. There are risks inherent with that future. AI is still code. Code can be hacked in by an adversary. AI is still based on the inputs, and who knows what the inputs are going to be. There's all sorts of challenges there, but you can't turn away from the future just because there's challenges. Of course there's challenges. You have to go in knowing those challenges. I love that.
As they said in the X-Files, you can't fight the future.
Argentina, it's a perfect, timely, relevant example. This chaotic leader came in with plans to completely upend everything that was established. And for a year, he struggled to keep people believing. And then after a year, that's still not good, but it's better.
By a lot.
By a lot. And a lot
it?
better than what it was isn't saying much to most democracies, but it's a shit ton better. Simultaneous and in parallel to that, you had France dissolve parliament and then re-vote to bring in new leadership. And then you had the resignation of the prime minister that resulted in a no confidence vote of the parliament. So France is back to no leadership again.
Wait, what?
Germany
No.
just had a no confidence vote.
France has a government. I guarantee you there's a government in France.
In its parliament and its current, is it a prime minister in Germany? Whatever the hell.
Chancellor?
Olaf, the chancellor, thank you. Like 2 days ago, he was voted in no confidence vote in parliament. So they're melted down. The top two.
No, these are how these governments work. You don't like in the UK. It's fucking weird, right? In the UK, they can just call for a general, like Parliament can just call for a general election, and then they have one like pretty soon. Like this is how parliamentary systems work. They're actually more stable. even though it sounds chaotic, and when it's a more stable system of government. It sounds chaotic, but it's designed to turn over like this. Whereas in America, you got people that have been in Congress for like 900 fucking years.
Economies in Europe, the two bastions of democracy in Europe, the two largest partners to the United States and NATO, arguably with UK, they don't have a government right now. They're melted down. They have to go back to the drawing board and re-elect because the people couldn't pick the right leadership more than one time in a row. So you got Milei saying, burn it all down, build it back up. You've got the old world trying to keep the old way and burning down on their own.
No. These are systems that are put in place. Like, what the fuck? No, this is how that system works. That's how parliamentary systems work. It turns over quicker. It's designed. It's by design that it turns over quicker. What the fuck is he talking about?
Donald Trump, and people wondering, is he just going to destroy America? I think he's got a plan to burn it down, build it back up, because he's done that. And like you said, he's creating this ensemble of entrepreneurs who have all in their careers had to burn it down and build it back up. The building it back up is not a guarantee. It takes a whole lot more work than burning it down. But sometimes you got
these no confidence votes aren't burning down the government. It's like baked into the fucking system. It's part of the system.
Burn the cornfield to reset the soil to grow something better.
Do you think he's going to destabilize America?
Destabilize is a tough word, right? I would argue that he has stabilized the United States on fewer feet. If you consider a table has 4 legs, does it need 4 legs? There are plenty of tables that have 3 legs, and there are other tables that have 6 legs. So,
did he what shape is the table? And where are people going to sit?
Stabilize the United States, or you just reduce the number of legs? I get the impression that the people who support him and see what he sees are more stable than ever. The people who don't understand him and don't see what he sees are more unraveled than ever.
Do you think he's going to destabilize the international order? And I'll give you an example. Dear Hamas, if you don't hand back the hostages by the time I take office, all hell will break loose. Now, he might be able to find a way to dance around saying that. He might be able to find a way to dance around saying, I'll end the Russia-Ukrainian conflict before my first day in office. But he's making a lot of bold statements. And if he keeps making those claims and doesn't back them up, he's going to have a domestic problem massively. And so I have a feeling he either has to deliver results or deliver big action in the form of delivered aggression. And if he gets results because everybody's scared, great. It'll be a big win. If they're all like, nah, I'm going to wait this fool out, he's going to implode. And then he's forced to do something that is direct American military intervention that destabilizes things.
There's 2 answers, I think, to your question. So I think he will stabilize the world around American hegemony again.
So strong man,
strong leader. Unfortunately, that's what's working in the world right now. Strong man, strong leader. What's Israel, right? Netanyahu. People don't like what he's doing. Strong man, strong leader. Xi Jinping, Putin, even Al-Jalani right now. Strong man, strong leader. Fucking Erdogan, 20 years in power in Turkey, a secular democracy, like strong
Turkey.
Men, strong power centers are in fashion and effective right now. That's why Biden didn't have very much success. All
right, well, this is as good a place as any to leave the podcast and maybe get away from these 2 fucking douchebags. There's some of the stuff they were saying was crazy, right? Like how, businesses, businesses don't operate within some kind of elephantine bureaucracy. Nobody ever just tries to wait out their boss in the private sector. Fuck yeah, people do. People hella try to. They're like, fuck, my boss sucks, but you know what? He's like how old is he? He must be like 104. Maybe I'll stick around here because he might retire soon, and maybe I'll get his job. Maybe my friend Carla gets his job. She cool. I'd like working for her. Yeah, people wait shit all the time in the private sector. And then his analysis of like, it was this Tom Bilyeu guy. If the U.S. like were to default on its debt to China, China just invades Taiwan. Like what? That doesn't make any sense. The U.S. just defaulted on your debt, and now you've given the U.S. a reason to now you've basically started an armed conflict, or you could have made a deal, right? Just go to Taiwan and be like, hey, these guys didn't pay us back. How much money they owe you? You're like, how much money do they owe you? How do you know they're going to pay you? They just didn't pay us. We're like right over here. Would you like a pile of money? Like, what the fuck, dude? What is it? Nobody else fucking talks and wheels and deals in the world. It's just us. We're the only wheelers and dealers in the world. Get the fuck out of here. Everybody be making deals all the time. It's diplomacy. It's why the world isn't constantly at war. I think nobody else is out there doing diplomacy. Fuck. U.S. stops paying its bills. Everybody going to be doing diplomacy. We're going to be out here all by ourselves. Our only friends are going to be Canada and Mexico. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening to the podcast, a part of the show. That was wild. HK will be back next week, by the way. He's been had some other stuff going on. So if anybody missed HK, he'll be back next week. Might be here for Conspiracy Bingo on Friday as well. If you want to support this project, go ahead and go to echoplexmedia.com. Click the support link at the top of the webpage. If you go to patreon.com/echoplex or eplex.store and sign up at $5 or more every month, you get these shows, including the post game in your inbox the day after the show. So that's a day earlier than the podcast comes out. And if you ever hear one of these and you want the members show and you don't want to give me $5, just fucking email me. All right. I'm not really going to paywall an MP3 or an MP4 because you won't give me $5. You're giving me $5 to support the project. You're not buying MP3s and MP4s from me. So, of course, as always, live viewers, stick around. We're not going anywhere. We're going to go into red light. I got some shit. We're going to do a little bit of a docket cleanse this evening. I think we're going to get rid of some of the old stuff so that some newer stuff can come in. And, there's at least one thing that I have on there that's pretty fucking crazy that I'm excited to, well, not excited to, but you know what I mean. That I'm looking for. No, that's not it either. Anyway, this is Boomers by Periscope. I will see everyone in red light.